I'm very pleased to introduce our leadoff speaker for this session, Andre Marshall. Dr. Marshall is currently the Vice President for Research, Innovation, and Economic Development, and President of the George Mason University Research Foundation. Andre, I know you were also a program director at NSF earlier in your career. I'm sure you're going to share that with us. And the I-Corps program is something that's near and dear to your heart. But let me just stop there and let you tell us your story, Andre. Thank you very much for being here.
Well, thanks so much for that kind introduction, Dr. Martin Vega. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, can everyone hear me and see me okay? Okay, great. All right, so good afternoon. It's really an honor and a pleasure to lead off this session as on NSF processes that fostered and indeed continue to foster extraordinary engineering impacts on society. Again, my name is Andre Marshall. I currently serve as George Mason University's Vice President for Research, Innovation, and Economic Impact. So what I'd like to do is, in this talk, is to discuss NSF processes that deeply impacted my own career and share some of my perspectives on them. I'll start off by providing an overall career profile, then discuss my time as a university researcher, and finally share some perspectives during my 4-year Intergovernmental Personnel Act, or IPA, assignment with NSF as a program director. So because we are discussing processes that led to extraordinary engineering impacts, I chose to present my career path on the so-called triple helix model of innovation. Now, this model of innovation leverages synergies between university, industry, and government for economic development and societal benefit. You may also note that there's an additional axis, a non-governmental organization axis that really extends and modifies the triple helix base model. And, you know, I included that NGO axis because it's deeply relevant to my own career. Now, as you know, NSF does a great job of identifying potential synergies in the triple helix, the university, industry, and government, and creating programs to leverage them, as you will see later in the talk. I also want to note that even though I was navigating this triple helix throughout my career, I really had no knowledge of this innovation model during most of it. And that made this kind of approach, career profiling, reflection approach particularly interesting. So briefly, I'll provide this career profile. Please note that the yellow boxes highlight my primary appointment throughout kind of this path. So I started undergrad in 1987 at Georgia Tech as a GE Foundation Scholar, a program supporting underrepresented minority STEM undergraduate students, covering tuition and offering summer employment at GE businesses. So at this point, I was engaging with university, a nonprofit, and industry. So go Jack Welch for his vision there. For my MS at Georgia Tech, I was a GEM Consortium Fellow, a program supporting underrepresented minority STEM graduate students, which also had an industry summer work experience component. So I was able to hit 3 axes there. Now, my PhD at University of Maryland was funded in part by the DoD, and that's the first time I really engaged with the government axis. After completing my PhD in 1996, I left the academy and worked in industry at Rolls-Royce as a senior project engineer developing technology for a NASA program. So there was the industry-university synergy there, even though I didn't really fully understand perhaps what was happening. Now, I returned to the academy at University of Maryland in 2001, working primarily on NASA and NSF federally funded research. And in 2017, I took an assignment at NSF as a program director. And you'll see in 2019, I re-engaged with the GEM consortium almost 27 years later. And I'll talk about that truly rewarding and satisfying experience at the end of my talk. In 2021, of course, I started my current role at George Mason University. So in this talk, I'm largely going to focus on that first NSF box or column there, and then the second NSF box, which is highlighted in yellow, corresponding to my time as a university researcher supported by NSF and my time as a program director supported also by NSF. So as a university researcher, I benefited from NSF's innovative discovery-based programs and translational programs. I want to pause here as a university researcher to say that it's not only me who benefited from these programs, but my entire research team, which of course included undergraduate, master's and PhD students, postdoctoral fellows, all supported by NSF on our research discovery and translation journey together. So I'm going to share my experiences from a few of these programs. In the discovery space, I'll share experiences with the Small Grants Innovative Research Program, the Faculty Early Career Development Program, and the Major Research Instrumentation programs. And then in the translational space, I'll share my Innovation Core and grant opportunities for academic liaison with industry experiences. So my first NSF award was from the Small Grants Exploratory Research Program that funds high-risk research. I was really struggling to get NSF funding, and this program was suggested to me by a mentor who was also struggling to get NSF funding. So we worked together, and while the research never quite scaled, this SGER program provided a pathway for NSF funding for me. I was able to develop a track record for NSF funding that I could reference in future proposals, and I developed a relationship with a mentor that has really helped to shape my career over the past 25 years. And indeed, it was this same mentor decades later that encouraged me to explore an IPA with NSF, which probably was one of the highlights of my career. So as I mentioned in the SGER slide, I struggled to get NSF funding. I was mostly focused on the prestigious Faculty Early Career Development Program Award, which is a highly competitive award supporting the research ideas that you'll build your career as an independent researcher on. For me, with career, the third time was a charm. So this award provided flexible, sustained funding that my very first PhD students were supported on and laid the foundation truly for the rest of my career. And as a Presidential Early Career Awardee or Award for Scientists and Engineering Award recipient, that's a PCASE Award recipient, I got to go to the White House and meet the president, which was truly a memorable and truly unforgettable experience. So next, I wanted to highlight the Major Research Instrumentation Program that supports building or acquiring shared research equipment because of the impact that that equipment had on both my field of study and the industry connected to my research. So the instrument that I built provided really some unprecedented input data to reduce uncertainty from computer models and gave new insights to industry on the performance details of their engineered devices. And developing that instrumentation, it attracted new collaborators, both in the academy and industry, and provided a unique capability that I could leverage even for my nascent tech startup. So speaking of tech startups, I have to highlight the Innovation Core program that provides experiential entrepreneurial training to researchers to help them get their great ideas out of the laboratory and into the marketplace. This program teaches customer discovery, a value-first approach that emphasizes interviewing potential customers to understand their needs and where they see opportunities, instead of a technology-first approach, which the researchers attempt to tell potential customers what their tech can do. So learning this value-first approach really changed my research priorities. I really became dedicated to use-inspired research. So the program also inspired me to launch a tech startup with my PhD student and a colleague from industry. Now, the startup was a rich experience for me, for my students and my partners, even though it wasn't successful. So instead of me talking about my failed startup for the next slide, I'll allow my colleagues who will speak later to discuss their startup successes. So we leveraged our unique measurement capability and previous from MRI and our previous career research to forge relationships with industry on a goalie proposal that fostered research collaboration between the university and industry. Our students got great experience working closely with industry collaborators and even spending summers at these really large research headquarters in Fortune 500 companies. However, I must admit that we did struggle to satisfy the different needs of our two industry partners, which were FM Global and United Technologies. And working with industry timescales is always challenging. So after my experience with research translation and I-Core through the startup, and with Goalie through some really nice collab with Fortune 500 companies, I really wanted to understand best practices for industry and university working together, and I had the unique opportunity to join NSF. So I joined NSF on an Intergovernmental Personnel Act, or IPA assignment. These assignments bring fresh perspectives from across the country, from across the research community, that help to influence new direction for research and research translation. So as much as I-Core changed my perspective on my research career, my NSF program director experience changed the way I saw university research writ large. The broad view that NSF afforded me to help me to understand all of the intent behind those proposal solicitations was invaluable. The solicitation rules and guidelines that I somewhat blindly followed, I now understood as principles guided by national interests and by values. These principles came from the values of the foundation and the civil servants that work there. And these values included stewardship over taxpayer dollars, really a deep commitment to thought leadership, which is reflected in the intentional frameworks that support the development of researchers, a deep commitment to societal impact. And of course, there are many, many more, but those really left an impression on me, and I'll carry them with me throughout the remainder of my career. So I'll dive next into some details about the programs that I serve. I started my assignment at NSF as one of the IUCRC program directors. This program connects university researchers with industry partners through proven frameworks to create and sustain centers that bridge the respective cultures between industry and universities. You know, IUCRCs have this great planning stage, which is 6 months to a year, built into the program that helps prospective universities and industry partners build trust. IUCRC provides assessment and evaluation frameworks to support and encourage transparency and accountability within the center to help industry and university work together. I'm going to go on. IUCRC has a voting framework that really can help support the selection, prioritization, and focus of a center. So these frameworks, and there are many more, have been developed over almost 50 years and provide important resources for faculty who are often unfamiliar, like myself, of what it takes to start a successful center. So I know that I learned a lot about building and leading centers through the great examples I observed as program director for the 2 years in IUCRC. So I described the I-Corps program before as one that provides these experiential entrepreneurial training training experiences for researchers and helps them commercialize their technologies. Now, I must say that it was a distinct privilege and honor to help lead a program in 2019 that was so important to me as a researcher and one that I participated in back in 2012. For reference on the scale of the program, we were one of the first teams to go through the program in 2012. I was team number 83, and believe it or not, Dr. Ponch was in my cohort. So that was a really fun fact for me. So there have been now over 2,000 teams trained over the past 10 years. And so when I was program director, we were in the 2000s, and as a participant, I was team number 83. As I mentioned in my own experience, researchers really benefited from thinking about the commercial potential of their technology from a value-first perspective instead of a tech-first perspective. As an NSF program director, I learned that the thousands of teams trained in I-Corps are sourced by a National Innovation Network, or NIN, conceived and supported by NSF, consisting of over 100 university partners. Now, this is a vast and complex ecosystem, and we worked hard as program directors to focus the partners on a few North Stars that were aligned with NSF priorities for the program. So time will tell if these North Stars resulted in better training and commercial outcomes, but a focus on deep technologies, a commitment to commercialization, inclusivity were really important to make sure that the commercialization products, the faculty development, and the training all were aligned with NSF's interests. I'm especially proud of the opportunity not only to lead and return to I-Corps, but the opportunity to build a really unique partnership with the GEM Consortium to encourage more I-Corps participants and more I-Corps participation from underrepresented groups. So you may recall that I was a GEM fellow very early in my career in grad school, and to have an opportunity to return to that NGO, some 27 years later was truly remarkable. So as it turns out, the GEM Consortium university partners overlapped almost perfectly with the 100 or so I-Corps university partners, but neither group was aware of the other despite the university overlap and the alignment of interests in engaging and developing STEM graduate students. So the GEM and I-Corps National Innovation Network, they really did work hard to understand the respective institutional priorities and the cultures of GEM and the cultures of I-Corps and the National Innovation Network. They built trust and they developed a partnership that broadens participation in I-Corps through the GEM I-4 program. So I can't tell you how satisfying it was to really bring together two institutions to create something new and hopefully enduring that is going to result in the next generation of deep tech startups from underrepresented founders. I also, just based on everything that I shared, can't say enough good things about my experience with NSF, both as a university researcher and an administrator. The experiences that I had there, the values that really were imparted to me will certainly impact the rest of my career and those that I serve at the university. So thanks so much. It's been quite an honor to give this talk today.
Andre, thank you very much. And I mean, it's really a wonderful journey that you're sharing with us, because it's a journey where at some points you developed your career as a result of NSF funding, but you've been able to come back at NSF and give back, as you mentioned, also with probably a broader understanding, and then still, continue that process going forward. But one of the things that you did mention in a couple of your slides, I'm just going to go back to when you said, I really struggled to get NSF funds, right? And on the career award, you said the third time was a charm. I mean,
yes.
There's got to be a message there, Andre. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I can. NSF, awards are really competitive. And I appreciate the fact that I had mentors there and a support system that encouraged me to continue to try. And, from a program director perspective, I talked about stewardship. It's not a bad thing that NSF, is really awards are really competitive to get. We're really searching for the best ideas, and we're challenging the community to give us the best ideas, because we want to have the impact for society and be a good steward over taxpayer dollars. So those things are great. The focus on inclusivity is great. That's just going to make these awards and make the engagement of all the best ideas better. I just believe that support is needed during that struggle to keep the young researchers encouraged and striving to do their best. And that's certainly something that I had access to, and something NSF could do more to encourage.
No, I think that's a really key part of it, right? Because the reason I sort of tweaked you on that is because it's a tremendous example of persistence, right? Persistence. And then when you go back as a program director, you're kind of sharing that in a different direction. I mean,
yeah.
Earlier in my career, I was a department head at Lehigh University, and I'll never forget a young faculty member. And obviously we encouraged him to submit a career award, and he didn't get it, right? And really upset. It's like, I don't know if I want to do anything with NSF.
Yeah,
and I said,
right.
well, wait a minute, you've got, 3 shots at this, right?
Yeah.
And just like you, Andre, the third time was a charm.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget when he came back and said, Louis, he said, I looked at my original proposal. He said, it wasn't really that great.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that you get is you get a lot of feedback in that process.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. So since we have young people and students on and all of that? Well, we could maybe save it for the discussion, but we do have still a moment or two. Is there anything that you'd like to share as a thought to folks, looking at a career like you've done? Yeah.
Yes, careers are built over time. And so just to be very, very open to possibilities and to try new things, especially to those in the academy. After you get tenure, there's, you have a lot of flexibility. And that's, a big part of tenure is being able to take risks. And it's really important for me to encourage, faculty members to take that risk because you don't know where it's going to lead. And oftentimes, exploring this broad parameter space can result in the biggest impacts.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope you'll be able to stay with us later.
Yes.
as we open this up. But thank you so much for kicking us off, because quite honestly, your presentation has covered a significant number of what we call these processes, right?
Yes.
That you've lived through and given us a real background on that.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.